We are live, Mr. Kautz.
Good afternoon, morning, whatever.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's interview with the legend himself,
Uh,
pastor, missionary, leadership guru, surviving of coronavirus 2020, Jim Kautz. Welcome, Jim.
hey, good to be with you, Jonathan. Thanks. Appreciate. I'll pay you for all that stuff later. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, you just got off the Tucker Carlson show interview, am I correct? So,
Right. No, I think that was Cats. Yeah,
yeah.
Kautz, not Counts. Yeah.
Man, as we're recording this, of course, we're still in this time of kind of unfamiliarity with the coronavirus, and everybody's being cautious. And so we're connecting with a lot of uh, people that I know, missionaries, pastors, professors, and I just want to offer some enrichment videos for our church at Summit Church, and then also anybody else who happens to watch these. And so Jim has been a friend of mine for a few years now. He's an overseer for Summit Church, and you are a unique individual in that you have background in a lot of different areas, kind of in what we call the secular world, and then also as a senior pastor, and now as a missionary. And I'll let you explain that. But Jim, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself, kind of where you're from, how you got involved in ministry, and what you are currently involved in.
Yeah. Jim Kautz, married to my wife Melissa. We have two daughters, Caden and Isabella, 11 and 7 years old. So they're keeping us young for the moment. Grew up in South Florida. My dad was an Assembly of God pastor, and my call to ministry was a little bit delayed. Didn't go the traditional right out of high school Bible school route. Had some work in the secular world, in the business world, with recreational facilities, and then later becoming a firefighter, paramedic, and being in the emergency situation. Went to Bible school finally, and took our first ministry full time. Did a lot of ministry over the years, Royal Rangers, youth, anything in the
Royal
church.
Rangers.
Yeah, we jumped on, playing music, whatever we needed to do, serving in youth. But my full time ministry was the first right out of the gate, senior pastorate in Texas City. We were there 10 years. God did amazing things. We took a church right after a hurricane, and had about a dozen people, and they loved us. We loved them, and they walked with us through growth and challenges and victories, and we learned a lot. We made a lot of mistakes, and we learned a lot. But it was a great 10 years. About year 9, God was challenging us and stirring our hearts. So we were approached by our district to pray about taking on what's called church health, helping churches that may be at a struggling level, helping churches that are pretty healthy, doing good things, and helping churches that are really healthy do even better things. So we knew that was coming, and that was really our passion, fixing, revitalizing, pouring into. So we now are serving as U.S. missionaries with the Assemblies of God. We also have the privilege of serving our district as church health directors. And so basically, a shortened explanation of that is we provide tools and resources to help strengthen the local church. That's it. Now that's a lot of different things, but that's our lingo. So anything the local church needs to be strong, to do what God's asking them to do, we're going to provide it. So a quick breakdown. For first and foremost, we provide education. We do the Acts 2 journey, which is a church health cohort. We offer that here in South Texas, and really offer it anywhere that it's requested, where we bring churches together to help the pastor and their teams focus on leadership goals, vision, strengthening the unity, getting organized, and then going back and getting the congregates involved. We do other education. We do training for every ministry department. We do financial training, administrative training. We can do outreach training. If there's trainings we don't even know about that's needed, and it will change as the culture changes, we're going to provide those and write curriculums for those to help the church. We do resourcing. If there's something that the church needs, an item, a supply, we're going to try to get them that as well. There's some big ticket items that take a little bit longer, but a lot of the small stuff, paint, different things that we will try to get them. We do logistical support. So we get a lot of pastors, churches will call us and say, how do we? And so we provide the how-tos on several different things. We do mentorship programs. We have pastors that come alongside of us, young pastors that are straight out of, Bible school, and some that are being called later in life that are older in their 50s, 60s, and not that that's old, but just, on the pattern. They say, hey, I'm being called the pastor. I've never done this. I've worked in a plant my whole life, and I'm scared. So we get with them and we walk them through church and what church is looking like in today's culture. So that's fun to do. And we also do, I think I mentioned resources, mentorships, church transitional support. So if we have a church that is maybe without a pastor, we can go in, love on those folks, encourage them, and walk them through the process of setting up, getting organized, and finding a new pastor. It could be a situation where the pastor left on bad terms, or the pastor left on good terms, and the people feel hopeless. They don't know what to do next. Well, they have a resource. And then we obviously do a lot of encouragement. And one of our favorite things, and we feel most important things, is prayer. We pray for our churches each and every day because we believe the local church is the answer to the crisis going on in this world. They need the love of Jesus, and what better way? And we're seeing now that the church isn't a building; it's the people that call themselves the local church. So a lot of things in our missions window, but we're learning and excited and staying busy.
That's good. And this is not necessarily a video for pastors, but I do want to say something that you talked about briefly. Ministry seems like the easiest job in the world to everybody who doesn't do it. Right?
Golf.
The fascinating thing is every church is different. They have different legacy. They have different cultures, environments. And so it's kind of like being a coach for different teams. Every team is different. You're going to have different strengths, different weaknesses. And so as pastors, it's very difficult to come into a setting and figure out how to lead people when they have different expectations. You have a vision, and there's a number of factors. And so church health is important because it's key that it's not about a church size. It's about the health of the church, the health of the leader.
Yeah. Right.
And so really some of the things that we talk about as far as programs and strategies, those are downstream from leadership and health. And so I want to make it clear that pastors need coaching, because we have a number of questions that there's just no book that'll prepare you for how to prepare a wedding and a funeral and deal with a crisis and do a message and all of the financial things all in the same week. It's there's a lot of people watching this that they have difficult jobs, but ministry is just difficult in a unique way. Am I right?
Absolutely. It's very diverse. You're dealing with completely two different spectrums within a 24-hour period. You could have celebrating a birth of a baby and with a family at a time of death, all in the same 24-hour period. That's a lot of emotion on a psyche. So it's very challenging.
Right. So let's talk about what are some of the marks of a healthy church. Give us a few marks of a healthy church, and maybe you could also bring out the negative. But what are a few distinguishing factors that you could say this is an unhealthy mark? If I see this in a church, that means danger. This is something to be concerned about.
One of the biggest things we strive for in a healthy church is unity. Unity is a big deal. Look, we can all have differences of opinions, different paint colors, different music styles. That's all fine. But when we come together as the church, it's scriptural. We've got to be unified, and we've got to be about the business of our Lord and Savior Jesus and what he's asked us to do. So unity is a big deal. There's ways to handle differences of opinion, and you can voice those, but the correct way to do that. So we really strive to push unity. The other thing is a plan. A lot of times, and listen, we believe in the spontaneous power of the Holy Spirit, but there's a lot of planning. There's planning in the Bible, and there's still plans that are yet to unfold, and planning is important. So churches have to have a plan. What does our community look like, and what's our plan to reach them? What is our goals for the future, and what's our plan to get to them? Because one of the greatest things about a plan is along the way you learn a lot and your faith grows. So unity and a plan are two big things that we see. And the third one I would say is happiness and joy. Nobody wants to walk into a church where everybody's miserable and upset and hating each other. They get enough of that in the outside world. And so they want to walk to a place where people are happy. They're joyful, even despite their situations. And here's the thing. I know there are times when you're just like, I can't be happy. But even in our worst situations, there's that tiny little bit of glimmer of hope that says Jesus. And so we always have reason to have a hope. So those are the three. Now, some of the negatives that I see is just that. One that we see, there are some churches that we walk into and they're not happy and they don't like each other. And you can tell right as you walk in, they don't like you. They don't like that you walked into their little group. And so we see a lot of churches that have a country club mentality where they're like, we don't want anybody else. We like our people. We know them. We're a group. We're a clique. And the church is not meant to be a clique. It's meant to welcome anybody. In fact, they got upset at Jesus for sitting at the table with people they didn't want or like.
Right.
And he made very clear that's who I'm here for. So as a church, if I see and I walk in and there's not, listen, I'm not looking for, trumpets and red carpet, but we've got to welcome people, make them feel happy about being there. So we need to see joy. We need to see happiness. We need to see friendliness. Love at the basic level is important. The other thing we need to see that's a big hint of, and I've had this happen, we've got to make sure that the church is ready to receive new people. We get churches, you've probably heard the story where a visitor came in, they were sitting there ready to go. Somebody came up and said, hey, you're sitting in my seat. Those are true stories. I've been told that straight up. And I was like, I've heard that my whole life, but I thought that was, one of those Loch Ness Monster type stories. That never happened. No, it does happen. And people aren't going to stay if let them sit in your seat. You should be glad they're sitting in your seat. So that's a big negative. The other thing is on some of the superficial, which may seem not that important, but it is signage. Where do people go to park? How do they enter the church? A visitor walks your church and they're going through 5 different doors. They're starting to feel kind of weird, and everybody, that's not a good thing. Let them know, where do they enter? Where do they park? What is the name of the church? Why is it here? And I'm not saying if you're going through a construction and there's some minor issues on that, but long-term, have a plan to get people in. So those are just a few quick things that we look for in a healthy church. But let me say that a healthy church is not based on numbers. That is a completely false misconception. Do we want to fill our churches? Yes. Do we want to make room for them to be filled? Yes. But a healthy church is one that's outward focused, that basically says, we've got a vision, we've got a call, we've got a plan, and we're going to do what God's asked us to do for this community. That can be done with 5, 10, 15, or 1,000 people. There are unhealthy churches running 5,000 people, and there are healthy churches running 10. There are unhealthy churches running 10, and vice versa. So it's really not about numbers, because 1 or 2 can do a mighty work if the plan and vision's there. So
that's good. Wow, you mentioned a lot of things that I want to kind of circle back on, because there's just so much there to talk about. But I heard somebody say that a church will continue to be healthy if they believe that their best days are ahead of them, not behind them.
Yeah.
And I should mention how we met each other. Is you went into Texas City and pastored First Assembly, correct?
That's correct.
And so I found myself in Texas City as well, pastoring for the first time, a church right down the road, Texas City, Glad Tidings. And I can remember, I think my first week there, I got a call from a guy who was like, hi, I'm a pastor in town. I want to take you to lunch. I'm like, oh, cool. And I can remember you picking me up and we go into Gringos.
Ah, yeah.
And
I remember that.
Anybody watches this in I guess the Houston area, you know the Gringos, and so you've placed a high value on friendship and connecting with people, and we spent a lot of time at Taqueria there in Texas City.
Amen. I miss those days.
Yeah, with Bill and all the Texas City folk. We'd go there, and that meant a lot. But we talked about this a lot, that I came into a struggling church, very small, almost the same exact situation as you. I wasn't there as long as you were, but we just began to cast vision and let people know your best days are not behind you.
Right.
It's great to treasure the past. It's great to
Absolutely.
honor and talk about previous pastors. I never told anybody, don't use that name, or let's forget about that. But I went to great lengths, and I know you did as well, to say, no, our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. I
Right.
think personally, that's one of the biggest marks of a healthy, whether it be a marriage, a family, a business, whatever, is, are you looking ahead? Because that's real health, is looking
Yeah.
ahead, having a goal. And I think that is so key. Let's talk about goals for a minute. Again, ministry is a unique challenge because we're preparing, as soon as Monday morning rolls around, we have a 6-day plan, right?
Mhm.
We're the coach, and we're trying to gather, okay, what's our game plan for this coming week? And at the same time, we're looking 2, 3, sometimes 5, 10 years down the road. And so let's talk about the balance between being in the moment, reacting to what's going on around us, being flexible, and then
Mhm.
also talk about the need to set goals long term. Can you kind of comment on that?
Yeah. So the first thing, the need to set goals. What you said is true. Our future plans have to be bigger than our memories. And again, like you said, that's not taking away from our memories, but we have to think that the future is going to be better than the past. Obviously, that's the plan of Jesus, that our future is better than our past. So setting goals is important. And in ministry, you have to think kind of like retail. They're putting Christmas stuff out in Hobby Lobby, in summertime, and you're
Oh, at
like,
least, yeah.
I can't deal with that. And the same thing with us. We have to be thinking Easter, I mean, right around before Christmas, really. So we have to be thinking ahead and then taking in the challenge. So one, we've got to set goals, and we challenge people in churches to set vision and goals that are almost unattainable,
Mm,
because the stuff's too easy sometimes. Then it's like, okay, we did it, great.
mm,
You're going to have those, but set goals that are beyond, because you want God's influence in on them to show you that he's going to get you to those goals. And so, like, for instance, maybe it's a building that you need to expand or remodel, and you say, well, we don't have the money. No, but that doesn't mean that God's not going to show up and help you with that. So plan, at least at Texas City, one thing let's plan for something we don't even know how it's going to happen, but we're going to trust God because he's asking us to do it. So you got to set those goals. And then to talk about, the moment, as a pastor, church leader, you have to learn to be flexible.
mm.
And that's hard. Now you have to, your family is a priority, and taking care of your kids and your hopefully just one wife. Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that in a moment.
That's the next topic, right? Yeah. Hopefully those have a priority in your life, but you also have to know that there may be a time where you have to go in the middle of the night because
Yeah.
there's a situation. And you got to be flexible with that. We have to set boundaries, and we teach that. You got to sometimes to say no. You can't make every birthday party, and people
Right.
will start to understand that, but you have to at least, set your boundaries. So goals are important. Being flexible is important. And when you have a fine mix of those, it really helps out.
That's good. That's good. Um, I have a number of topics to touch on. If you have anything too that you'd like to talk about, just chime in. But I'm a unique minister as well, in that I pastored a church that was started in the 50s. And when I got there, you walked in, and it was like stepping back in time to the 70s or 80s. And
Yeah.
we were able to revitalize it. And I learned a lot. Some things I did that I was proud of, some things that I wish I would have done differently, but it was a fruitful time. And you have a similar situation as well. We have talked about this, and I am willing to put a mark on me right now. So you can be prepared for this.
Yeah.
I'm a church planter. God has led me to plant a church, but as much as we need new churches, and I'm going to do an interview soon with someone talking about the importance of church planting,
Yeah.
it's absolutely essential, because we have more churches shutting down than
Mhm.
starting.
Yes.
However, if our only goal is just to keep planting and not revitalize, we're missing out. We're not doing we're not doing really a good job. And so you and I both have a passion to say, no, let's not just start everything new. We need to learn how to revitalize, because here's reality. Every church was planted at some point, right?
Yes.
And someday, whether it's by God giving me a different opportunity, or if it's simply me growing old and retiring, I'm going to hand off my ministry to someone. And we have a big picture for revitalization. And like you said, handing off the baton, as it were, to the next minister. And let's talk about that and the importance of revitalization, as opposed to just living in an age of modernity when everything new and shiny and cool and sleek is the way to go. Let's talk about what it looks like to go into perhaps like you said, a loving place, but they're struggling. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah. So that's the landmark of several of our churches across this nation. They were planted years ago, and now they're reaching a point where the pastors are getting of retirement age. Some pastors have earned their reward and have gone to heaven. And so we're left with a church that sometimes says they don't know what to do. And so the first instinct is, well, there's nobody here, let's just close it down. And that's the wrong instinct. We've got to keep them open, because if we're planting a church and closing a church at the same ratio, which we know that we're closing at sometimes more than we're opening, we're not gaining any access. It's like people that are saved leaving one church and going to another. That may be the good decision for them, but we got to grow the kingdom of people who don't know Jesus. So we walk into a church that has a lot of older ways, older thinking, older styles, and that's not necessarily bad. But what we have to do is figure out a way, how can we go and love on these people and reignite a vision in them that they feel is lost because the person they've known for 20, 30 years is no longer there.
Right.
They're still the church. Their leader might be gone, but they're still the church. So how can we invest in them to be the church? And that's why in these times we're living in now, where church is having to get outside the walls, it's starting to be put into practice. Okay, the building is good, and we can fix it up and we can make it. And we tell people all the time, listen, you be the style that the people you're witnessing to are. You don't have to walk in and go with the style that's going on in whatever that you see on TV. You got to pray and find out, what is the culture of the people I'm witnessing to here, and what is their style? Healthy church isn't one that just has all the fancy, lighting and black roofs and up-to-date music. You have to decide what vision God's given you and go with that. We have churches that deal with bikers, that deal with cowboys, that deal with all types of style and groups of people, and they can't, they've got to be to that style. But you go in, and the goal is to re-energize that church. And people love a project. I mean, what is popular right now, right? Let's take something old and make it new, but keep it looking old, right? That's the end thing. People want torn up beams in their home. They want barn wood that's 80 years old, and that's all cool now. So I think let's use that to our advantage, and see that our churches, our local churches that are, whether they're rural, whether they're inner city, that are old, let's market on that and make it cool. Because it can be, but going in and basically re-energizing those folks and saying, you're not dead. This is not over. Right. It would be easier to close it up. Just like a remodel is harder than a new construction.
Right.
But sometimes, as you've seen on some of these DIY shows, you go into an older home, they don't make stuff like that anymore. And it's the story and the history comes out, and the house has so much more meaning than just a new build. Again, nothing against new builds. But I think that we can go in and save a lot of churches just by re-energizing them for their purpose.
That's good. So good. I think you need to do that. I think you need to buy an old house and every day do a little devotion and talk about stuff while you're doing demo. I mean, apparently this is what, I'm not a drummer. This is what renovation is. Cool.
We had a couple of people say you should do like a church, renovation show and all the drama that goes into a church renovation. I'm like, that might preach, actually. That might be pretty dramatic.
Yes. And we could keep talking about ministry a lot, and certainly as pastors, we love talking about this. But let's talk just about people's lives. Let's talk about how to reinvent yourself.
Sure.
When you are stuck, you look back and you think 5 days ago looked exactly the same as 5 years ago. I haven't grown. I'm thinking the same way. I'm doing the same things. And maybe it's nothing, overtly sinful or problematic, but it's simply just I'm stale. I'm stagnant. I want to be a river, not an old stale green pond. Um, a lot of these things, a lot of these principles can be applied to our lives. And let's just talk about you. Let's put on your pastor hat for a second. And somebody comes to you in counseling, or you go out to lunch with someone and they say, Pastor, I'm stuck. Maybe I know where I can be, and I'm just struggling. I'm not there. What questions would you ask them? How would you counsel them in that?
So the first thing I would do is remind them of why they were created and who they were created by, that they have a purpose and a plan. I think everybody has a talent, a gifting, and ability. Second thing I would tell them is they're not like anyone else. They're specifically designed to be different. A lot of times comparison will kill. And if we try to be somebody we're not, wow. God's called us to church health. I didn't see that coming at all, but I'm not going to try to be like some of these other great leaders who have been leading people for years. I'm just going to do what God's asked me to do. So I remind them that you have a gifting and a word, so you need to be used of God. Then the third thing I would ask them is, what is their passion? What is inside them? Because we all know, really, if we look deep inside, we know what's in there. Even when we're stuck, we know we have a desire for blank. And then I walk them through, how are we going to get to that desire, that passion? What's the plan? Again, the plan comes back into play here. Because once you know what you want, then you have to figure out how to get it. When we were kids and we wanted a toy, we said, Dad, can we mow the yard? Mom, can we clean the house? Can we get some allowance increase, right? Because we want this toy. So we came up with all these creative ways to get it. And even when we're stuck, the devil will try to lie to us. And we just have to say, nope, not going to listen, not going to hear it. So those are key, reminding them of why they were created, who they were created by, what their purpose is, what's inside them, and that they can't compare. They're not somebody. I tell pastors all the time, they say, I don't understand that guy over there. He opened the doors up and 800 people walked in. I'm like, you're not that guy over there. You're not supposed to be that guy. God's got a plan for you. You don't know. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. I mean, that's an old saying, but it's true. So, I would just walk them through those steps. And usually by that time, with just a person as you described, they're already starting to go, you know what? Okay. And even as pastors, we need to be reminded of that, because we can look online and we can see, man, that guy, he's cool. He's got the greatest worship. Yeah. He's got all these lights. He's got the cameras moving 20 many different angles. I've got one little camera. So he's preaching the gospel, right? Yes. You're preaching the gospel, right? Yes. Look at that. Yeah. We're all going to do it differently. So I think sometimes need to slow our minds down. We try to do too much. Simplify.
It's good. You say simplify or simplify?
Simplify.
Okay.
Simplify. Yes.
Like go Marine.
Woo, yeah. We love our military. Right?
And pastors are normal people. We have to be careful of the comparison, because comparison kills. And what's funny is I have a pastor friend who has a bigger church than what we have, very healthy church. And I said in a roundabout way, man, I can't wait to have some of those elements that you have to be able to do these things. And what's funny is he knew my situation. He said, actually, I kind of wish I was a little bit in your situation, because I would focus on a few things and do some things differently.
Right.
And when you really step back and look at it, it's so, we think that we should be like this person. And it's good, for iron to sharpen iron and for us to bounce ideas off of each other. But at the end of the day, we each have a unique calling. Not all the disciples had the same calling, but yet they were called. They were called to follow Jesus and to serve him in a unique way.
Absolutely.
Are you familiar with, well, I'm sure you are, Dave Ramsey's, get out of debt, the baby steps.
Yeah.
One of the things he talks about in paying off debts is just get momentum in paying off something small.
Yeah.
Um, and it sounds counterintuitive because you think, I've got this mountain of debt. I need to really get the big thing going. But what he talks about is, don't approach this as a math issue, approach it as its behavior. And when you get
Hmm.
the confidence of seeing a little victory, when
Yeah.
you have a win in your life, the next win comes easier. The next win
Yep.
comes easier. So I want to, I mean, this may be a softball question, but I'm just want to kind of throw it out there.
Sure.
Talk about how, even when it comes to health, whether it's physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, church health, organizational health, whatever, talk about the importance of just, if we get a little victory, we get a little win, you
Mhm.
know, the next one will come easier, and then the big ones will become even easier.
Yeah, I'll take it a step further. Not only do you have to have wins, but you got to celebrate those wins. We tell churches all the
Right.
time, if you put up a plan and in this plan that you've come up with, the first thing gets done, celebrate it big and celebrate with your people.
It's good.
I remember there were changes we would make at the church and it hadn't been done in years. We painted a wall or something and people are like, wow, celebrate it. I'm telling you,
Celebrate. Yeah.
celebrate it. Because change is hard on folks, but when they can realize that we're changing for the better and we celebrate those, I tell folks, you get upset, oh, I only lost 1 pound this week. So what? Celebrate it. It's better
Right.
than gaining a pound. So you have to celebrate every single win. Big time. I mean, make a big deal about it. It's important.
That's good. Anything else that you would say to somebody? Any last thoughts in that before we get to our rapid fire questions?
Oh, man.
Any other things about church health, personal health, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would probably just say that it's a journey and it's tough at times,
Right.
but we have to find the moments and celebrate. We have to find the moments and just stop and pause and realize the great responsibility God's allowed us to be a part of. In ministry, we get so busy with sermon writing and now we got the social media aspect and who's doing music and you got problems and all these things. Sometimes you just have to sit back and be like, wow, God chose me. And that's an
Yeah.
awesome thing. And relish in that because he did. He chose us. And sometimes, they say stop and smell the roses. Yeah, stop and just look around, look at your family, look at your church, whether it's got leaks in the roof or not. Look at it and go, wow, I'm in America. I get to pastor a group of people and I get to proclaim freely a gospel message that will change someone's life. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
So I think we just, if that was one last thing I would say is just take time to stop and just look around and appreciate what God's given you.
That's good. That's good. Well, I appreciate all you've been able to share with us about church health, about personal growth, all of that. And I'm ready to give you a few questions. Are you ready?
I hope so.
It's not going to be that intense, actually. But all right. What is your college or professional sports team?
Oh man. Florida State University, FSU.
I keep
Only
forgetting.
because my nephew went there. So I got to support family, right?
Now, you grew up like a surfer dude, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. So I didn't really care much for. We watched football, baseball, that kind of stuff, but I was like, I want to be at the beach, man. I don't want to mess with this field
Right.
stuff.
Were you like, did you have all the lingo and like kind of the mannerisms of the
Mm.
surfer bro?
No, we called those
No?
guys posers. Those are posers, man. They really. I was more the oh man, this is God's creation. Look, I'm out here in the ocean. I wasn't a
Yeah.
tree hugger, but I loved nature, and and so not to offend any tree huggers that may be out there, but I
Right.
loved being in the ocean and
Yeah.
just the awesome power that was there that we got the ability to take advantage of. It was really cool,
Did you
and to me, it was very freeing.
did you do longboard, shortboard, both?
Both, yeah. I
Yeah.
started learning on a longboard,
Okay.
and then of course you kind of, being young then, that wasn't cool. The three fin boards were the
Yep. Yep.
popular,
Yep.
so that's people wanted to, what they say, thrash the wave. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't really that kind of guy. I just enjoyed riding them,
Yeah.
and then later as I ended back to the longboard actually because it became very popular again, and I
Yeah.
think it's still popular today. People are really into retro.
Yeah. So now shortboard's more difficult, isn't it?
Very much more difficult,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can turn and do all kinds of things that longboard, you just, kind of ride at home and you can slightly turn, but it's a little bit harder to turn, but you're not going to fall as easy.
Gotcha. Well, we'll get a group from Summit Church to go to Florida, and you
Let's do it, man.
Sure. All right. Next
I often wonder now. I'm like, I'm not going in the ocean. There's sharks in there. Are you crazy?
You gotta deal with it. You gotta face your fears, y'all.
That's
all right.
right.
What is the best book or podcast you've listened to recently?
Book Simple Church. Church. Yeah, loved it. That's probably the last thing that I looked at. So I love, just like I said, it speaks to me. Simple. Very important to be that way.
What is your favorite part of your job or your ministry?
The diversity, going into situations that are very unknown, and that sometimes are pretty tragic, as far as there's a lot of people upset, and getting everybody back on the same page. I love the challenge, but I think the diversity of, so much is under our missions umbrella that, we may be doing a training one moment or going into a situation where we're trying to bring unity to a bunch of angry people. So it's very diverse.
It's good. And then lastly, how can people connect with you? We believe in your ministry, and how can people give and connect with you?
Yeah, so they can find us on our Facebook page, STXAG Church Health. Stands for South Texas Assembly of God, so STXAG Church Health. They can email us at jkautz, JKAUTZ, at stxag.org. They can find us through the South Texas District webpage, stxag.org. They can, we're listed under our giving account at U.S. Missions. It's giving.ag.org. And then you just search us by our last name, and you go to, we're the only U.S. missionaries with the last name of Kautz, Kautz. And that's about the best ways. Yeah, Facebook, we're on Facebook, obviously. You can get with Jonathan, he can give you my cell number, and we can work through that. Any way we can help, we'd love to.
Absolutely. And if you're cool with it, I'll leave some of those links whenever we post this video, and just go from there. Man, appreciate your friendship. And appreciate your ministry. Keep doing the work that you're doing, and we'll look forward to getting you back up to Ardmore whenever it's safe to travel again.
I know we look forward to it. We're proud of Summit Church and all you guys are doing. You and Angela are doing a great job, and people there are friendly, and God's using you. So keep up the good work, and thanks for chatting with us today.
Absolutely, man. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
All right. God bless.
All right. Bye.
Bye.